What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another Bring the Juice Colts podcast live stream. We're doing an early preview this week, guys, due to Thanksgiving and, travel and whatnot. It's going to make it a little more difficult to get it done later in the week. So we're going to go ahead and bring it to you guys right now. So I'm joined by my good friend, Cody Felger. Cody, how you doing today?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Just been, like you said, holiday season coming up. Things are getting a little busy. So yeah, when he said preview, I was like, all right, well, we'll get it done early here, get it out of the way for this week. I know we typically like to wait till Wednesday, Thursday to get it done, but yeah, totally good with that. And hopefully everybody out there will have a great Thanksgiving. I know, Derek, this weekend, it's going to be a lot of friends and family and all that stuff. And so hopefully wherever our listeners are listening from or watching from, you have a very awesome and safe Thanksgiving. So yeah, man, very exciting. Also, yeah, Derek, shout out to you again. If everybody doesn't know, this guy got engaged over the weekend. So shout out to Derek. That's definitely an awesome thing, man. Definitely remember that a couple of years ago. Very exciting times. So really pumped up for you, man. And yeah, even though the Colts may not be good, life is good nonetheless.
Yeah, that is a very true statement. Yeah, very true.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that.
Yep.
And thank you for that. And thank you to everybody that is tuning in. Once again, guys, this stream is powered by BetUS, guys. If you're looking for a new sports book this season, look no further than BetUS. Be sure to like the stream, guys, as you come in. Helps the algorithm, helps to get out to more people. Please comment, please subscribe. We're on the push for 20,000 subscribers. We need your guys' help. Again, guys, take everything that you have here with a grain of salt with everything, because obviously we haven't even gotten a chance to do see the injury report and how things are going here. But I guess we can kind of start off with that, Cody. Going into this, you have a situation where the Indianapolis Colts, they are definitely injury ridden, and now it's on the offensive side of things. Josh Downs was downgraded to a week-to-week basis.
Yeah.
More than likely will not play on Sunday against the New England Patriots. Again, anything can happen, but I highly doubt that we see him this week. And then, of course, Ashton Doolin is now questionable. Tanner Bortolini went into concussion protocol, and who knows if we're going to see Bernard Ryman back this week or not.
Could be a bad injury.
Add one over here on the offensive side right now, Cody.
Yeah, and to think your offense wasn't bad enough, now you add in the injuries to some of your key players. It's just, it's been rough, man. It's been rough. On the positive side of, with Josh Downs likely not going to play in this game, it does open the door for more A.D. Mitchell. I mean, Derek, we saw when Josh Downs was injured earlier on in the season. Shout out Nick Cross for that. But regardless, Nick Cross has played well enough where I think, we can give him the benefit of the doubt. But anyway, when Josh Downs missed the first couple of weeks, it was A.D. Mitchell in the preseason, A.D. Mitchell in training camp, A.D. Mitchell, navigating out of that slot position. So I think he will slide right into that role for the Colts offense. And Derek, I know you and I the last couple of weeks, we've been happy with how A.D. Mitchell, for the most part. Again, he had I think in that game he ran the wrong route. There was some sort of miscommunication, but it definitely seems like from the start of the season to now, A.D. Mitchell's starting to find himself a little bit. So I'm excited to see him get a few more snaps. I'm excited to see kind of what he can do. And, I think that's the best thing for A.D. Mitchell, and obviously A.D. Mitchell, AR, all those guys, just continuing to build that chemistry. It feels like they're starting to get on the same page. So more snaps for A.D. Mitchell definitely isn't a bad thing, and I'm excited to see how he's going to grow in this opportunity. And I'm just really looking forward to that. But yeah, man, I mean, definitely when it comes to the injury report, it doesn't look pretty for Indy right now.
Yeah, and of course, a lot of that is going to drastically impact how the Indianapolis Colts attack the New England defense this week. Yes. And with Anthony Richardson at the helm once again. Mm-hmm. Anthony Richardson, again, Cody, you and I talked about it. We're going to even do a video after this discussing that. But I mean, you and I have sat here. We've watched Anthony Richardson since coming back from being benched, and we have definitely seen a much more locked in Anthony Richardson. And again, last week the box score doesn't do it justice. You ask anyone that actually watched the game and has a somewhat sense of mind will actually tell you, oh, Anthony Richardson actually played a lot better than what the box score will tell you. So, we've seen two really good performances from Anthony Richardson the last few weeks, but obviously we saw the last few weeks, the Indianapolis Colts haven't been able to run the football, and they haven't done a very great job of protecting Anthony Richardson. And now his best weapon is likely going to be out for this next week as well. What do you expect from Anthony Richardson this week, knowing just how much he might be without this week?
Yeah, and it feels like we talked about it. It feels like the offense hasn't really been giving him help either, whether it's the offensive line not protecting, whether it's the receivers or more so recently the tight ends not catching passes, the receivers earlier on in the season not catching passes. So yeah, I mean, it definitely will be tough sledding for AR, but I mean, Derek, I think this kind of stuff is good for him to play when you're not at full strength, to show what you've got, even when you may not have, a lot of guys backing you, right? When in terms of pulling their weight and doing their thing. So yeah, these are hard lessons that I think this young quarterback has to learn now, and learning that, hey, you know what? Like, you got to battle through it. It's next man up. And, it'll be interesting to see, can AR, we like to say that, those franchise quarterbacks, they bring out the best in everybody, right? They bring the guys up, even if there's not necessarily the best guys out there. So I'm interested to see, can AR potentially, bring that out of some of these guys? But yeah, I don't know, man. It's going to be tough sledding, like you said, potentially without multiple offensive linemen. I mean, you were already down, multiple offensive linemen. Now to have at least one more injured, I mean, you're going to your third string center at this point. It'll be tough, man. It certainly will be tough. But I'm just excited to see, like you said, AR and just his development. And, he's stringed together back-to-back, I think, solid performances, certainly better than it was earlier on in the season. And the stats won't indicate that. The stats won't tell the whole story, but you look at the film, you look at the context of last week and the last 2 weeks, and you're like, yeah, I mean, he has certainly been better. He's certainly, been more calm in the pocket. He has, been able to stand and deliver. His base is so much better. Like, it's very clear the Colts have been, emphasizing that to AR, and his footwork, all that stuff. Like, it just seems like he is so much more of a confident passer now than he was, to start the season and even last year to some degree. So I'm just intrigued to see how he continues to do that, because Derek, again, we've said it before, we'll say it again. AR is never going to be that, pocket passer type of guy that's going to be, Drew Brees throwing for 68% completion percentage. He may not, I don't think he's ever going to be that guy. Now, could he be? Certainly. But, AR obviously has that more athletic side, and you want to see the Colts, design and tailor plays, no pun intended, to him, honestly. And so, but within that, Derek, I think there is an element of, like, no matter how athletic AR is, no matter how dangerous he is running the football, there is a time and a place. And I believe Chris Ballard has even said this too about the quarterback position. There's a time and a place where you've got to be able to deliver from the pocket. And that's what AR has to do. And the last couple of weeks, he's been doing that. So I'm more intrigued. We know Derek, he's an electric running quarterback. We know he can throw it deep, but that short to intermediate game, which was the biggest thing, right? Missing the easy throws. Like, he started to do that a little bit more. Like, I really was impressed. I've been impressed the last couple of weeks. Obviously, the big passes, the big pass to Pierce, we've all seen those passes. But, the quick outs, the quick hot read, those sorts of things that maybe he wasn't doing at first. And he was holding the ball too long. Or even, Derek, and I know a lot of people don't like to hear this, but even throwing the ball away when there's nobody open. I mean, that is a positive step, in my opinion, because you're not taking unnecessary risks, which one of them is obviously hits. You're not trying to play hero ball in that instance. You're not trying to do something more and then turning it over, making a bad play worse. And I think that is all, the good and not necessarily kind of the neutral stuff. That's all progress to me. So I'm very intrigued about that. But yeah, I'll be intrigued to see kind of how, the injury report, the final injury report, when it does come out on Friday, who's in, who's out, especially on that offensive line. I'll be really intrigued to see how that kind of plays out.
Yeah, no doubt. And I see a lot of people in the comments saying, if when Ryan Kelly comes back, the Colts should move Tanner Bortolini to right guard. I definitely think that could be an option. You know, you did sign Mark Lewinsky for, you know, some additional depth. Who knows what's going to happen there? But yeah, I mean, it's going to definitely be an issue for them. You know, Cody, I mean, I would talk about this run game right now, but like we've seen 2 weeks in a row now, Jonathan Taylor's been non-existent in this offense. And, you know, last week, obviously, the Indianapolis Colts put a huge presence on Anthony Richardson running the football, at least in the first half. And, you know, I mean, it's one of those things as well where Jonathan Taylor kind of took a back seat in a way. And, you know, it's obvious when it comes to the offensive line is just playing at an all-time low right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, what can we expect from this unit? What can we even expect to run the football for the remainder of the year until these guys get healthy? Because I mean, right now, Cody, it just feels like the offense is going to remain stale as long as this offensive line unit just continues to get decimated like it is.
Yeah, and you know, having all these young guys who, you know, are rookies, young players, undrafted rookies playing. I mean, that's just, you know, the offensive line clearly was your biggest hindrance, man, in this last game. I mean, how many times did the offensive line, number one, not block? Number two, when they did block, they held on key downs. Like, so how many times? I mean, I know we have stats to back this up, but this offensive line was the biggest reason why you lost this game, Derek, if we're being completely honest with it. You can talk about the defense, talk about the tight ends, but at the end of the day, the offensive line was the issue. And again, you know, to some degree, it is expected when you're starting three rookies. But I just have to believe, Derek, there's a better solution at right guard than Dalton Tucker. I just have to believe that. Like, you know, Mark Glowinski he can't possibly be worse at this point, right? It's been not just a week, it's been multiple weeks now where it's just honestly been unplayable. He's just been unplayable. And to be fair to Dalton Tucker, he should not have to be in this situation to begin with. He was an undrafted guy. I don't think it's fairness. I mean, you can say he's played bad, but also like I didn't expect him to come in and light the world on fire. So it's not like this huge, massive disappointment. But you know, the Colts preach accountability, Derek, all the time. But to me, it just feels like accountability for them, it's very selective at times. You know, it's like, oh, we'll be accountable, but we won't, you know, some of those guys like Dalton Tucker, we won't bench him. I just don't understand why in certain degrees. I understand believing in your players, but also this kid's an undrafted free agent. Like, you can afford to upgrade from him, especially if you're really truly about that word, which I don't know how about that word they are. But yeah, this offensive line is hurt. I mean, to be fair. And if Ryman comes back, that'll obviously be huge. I'm very intrigued what happens to Matt Gonzalez. You know, when Ryman does come back, I don't think he would necessarily slide to guard because he hasn't really done that this season. He's been more of that reserve tackle. But Derek, if it continues to go the way it has, I don't know if the Colts have a choice. Somebody's got to fill that role. Somebody's got to at least play average at that right guard position. And you're telling me out of all the guys you have, obviously a lot of guys are hurt, but when all these guys come back, you're telling me that Dalton Tucker is your best option at right guard. I just don't believe that. I just can't believe that because there's so many other talented guys that could fill that role and fill it better and should fill that role, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like something needs to happen here. You can't keep rolling with the same unit that you have. I mean, you just can't. And you know, I think it's funny too, Cody, because if you look at the numbers from last week, the best offensive lineman that you had last week was Matt Gonzalez.
Yep.
Which is crazy to think about because again, that's the rookie that's playing out of position. And yet somehow, some way, he had the best performance. Now, obviously, if Aiden Hutchinson would have been in this game, it probably would have been a completely different story. probably would have gotten owned, and then Anthony Richardson probably would have been sacked for a couple times, and then Anthony Richardson might have died on that field. Who knows at that point?
I mean, yeah. With the pressure rate the way it already was, I can't even imagine.
As bad as it was already, it would have been even worse had that would have been the case. But yeah, I mean, nobody on that offensive line beside Matt Gonsalves came to play on Sunday. Somebody, and what's even more disturbing is the fact that, Braden Smith was your third overall rated player, and Quentin Nelson had his worst game as a pro in that game too. I don't know what happened, but Big Q, you got to take more responsibility than that, dude. I don't know what that was. I mean, we look at you to be an all pro. We expect you to be elite.
You're a captain.
That was not the makings of an elite offensive lineman. I mean, in credit to the Detroit defense. I mean, obviously they have a strong front four, but nobody should have done that to Quentin Nelson. There was not one of them on there that should have done that to Quentin Nelson, but they did do that.
Yeah. And that he's got to own that. He's got to, take a step forward. Hey, Derek, everybody has bad games. Quentin Nelson's the type of player where you're like, yeah, it doesn't excuse it, but I mean, he's an all-pro type of player, so you expect that out of him every week. But every player, even the best, have bad games, and that was his worst game, like you said. So I'm hoping that there's a big rebound incoming for Big Q. Like, I'm really hoping this week he just completely has one of his best games of his career. Like, I just think he's due for one of those. And I feel like up to this point, Derek, Big Q, outside of the penalties, he's been still pretty good. He's been one of the better guards in football. So to see him just have that, massive drop-off this game was very, very concerning and very frustrating because, that was the reason you lost in a lot of ways, and that he was, one of the main contributors to that. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, like, it's going to be tough. I mean, without your starting, really even your top two centers in this game, although I will say Danny Pinter has filled in well when he's been given opportunities in the past. So I feel a little bit more confident in that, but we just haven't honestly seen Danny Pinter this year play hardly at all. But I suppose if there's anybody on this, offensive line that can be the third center, Danny Pinter is probably a good option for a third center at this point. So, yeah, I don't know what the solution is. I mean, you need your all-pro players to play like it, obviously. But also, you need to get some of these guys back healthy. I think getting back Ryman, even though Gonsalves has been just fine, and he's been solid, and I think he's the guy that you look at and you say, yeah, he's definitely a future piece for us. But as soon as Ryman gets back, I mean, he's a really good tackle. Like, he is one of the better offensive tackles in football, one of the better left tackles in football. And so I think that's just a huge boost. He's very, especially in the run game, I think Ryman excels in that department. So yeah, definitely looking forward to having him back in the lineup here if it indeed is this week. But yeah, this Colts offensive line's just got to get healthy, man. And some of their better players got to play like it.
Yep, 100%. From the weapons department here, who needs to step up the biggest here, Cody? With obviously, we're assuming Josh Downs is going to be out for this game. Who needs to step up the most?
I mean, I think I said it already, but A.D. Mitchell, he's got a prime opportunity here, Derek, to step up, to be that primary slot guy for the Colts for at least this week and maybe the next couple weeks, depending how significant this injury is for Josh Downs. I think he has a tremendous opportunity, right? And he got a lot of snaps early on in the season. Then when Downs came back, his snap count kind of went back down a little bit. When Pittman was kind of dealing with stuff, when Pittman was out, a couple weeks ago, he got a significant bump, and I thought he had his definitely not. If I didn't think he did have his best performance so far as an Indianapolis Colt, so I think he's definitely the key for me. He's the biggest guy that's got to step up. I mean, you can also talk about every single one of these tight ends because they've all been terrible this year, but I don't know, Derek, if there's anybody in this room that truly is going to do that. I think it is what it is. I would say, Derek, it's the worst tight end room in football. I think the stats would back that up. If there's a player that I think can do it and has an opportunity, I would say A.D. Mitchell.
All right. I agree with you on that. All right. Well, before we go any further into this, guys, just want to say again that this stream is powered by BetUS. If you're looking for a new sports book this year, look no further than BetUS. So, Cody, as it stands right now, the odds are that The Indianapolis Colts are actually 3-point favorites as they go into New England on Sunday. And so we're going to take them to win here. But I do want your opinion. The over-under is set at 42.5. You going under or you going over on that?
42.5.
Me personally, I'm going under.
That's what I was going to say. I was thinking under. I'm like, that's a lot for two not good football teams,
Yeah.
Unless the actual offensive line protects AR, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for them to do anything. I mean, it's been that way. But I'm going to stay with the under for right now.
All right.
Because, Derek, at the end of the day, the Colts haven't really, they haven't scored a lot of points this year. So, I mean, they've had moments, but yeah, they've just been held back a lot.
Yeah, I expect them to figure it out a little bit this week because they're facing a worse defense. But then again, for the amount of stuff that we're losing right now, especially on the O-line, you're not going to get any consistency out of this offense. So
it's going to be hard.
Yeah, I'll stick with the under there too. Put 25 on that. You can win $69.27 right now if you were to put a $25 bet on that right now. So be sure to check out BetUS, guys, and also be sure to use their promo code YouTube150. You can get a 150% sign-up bonus up to $2,000 on your first deposit, and then a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits. Just use that promo code, but of course, guys, always bet responsibly. Cody, so we got to move on here to the New England offense, and that's really what the main culprit talking about New England is right now, is talking about Drake May. And, while Drake May certainly hasn't lit the NFL on fire since coming in, he's had some good performances. He has put together some yardage. He has put together a few drives, and he has made some people think, if the New England Patriots weren't so bad, Drake May might actually be a pretty darn good quarterback right now. And I think Drake May definitely is a good quarterback, Cody. I just think that right now, as it sits, the rest of the offense is just not up to speed. What's your thoughts, Ben, on Drake May so far this year?
Yeah, I mean, with any rookie stats, they're not necessarily always going to be pretty, and they certainly have not been that for Drake May. I think he's a good young quarterback that's just on a bad New England roster right now. I mean, to be honest with you, Derek, we've seen the last couple of years just the absolute dumpster fire this New England offense has been. So, yeah, he's definitely had his rookie growing pains, as they often do. But, Derek, I think he's definitely shown you some things this year, enough to make you think he can be the guy moving forward. So, yeah, overall, when you look at Drake May and this offense, the Patriots, nothing to write home about. But, I think with all these young quarterbacks, it is really just about gaining that experience, good or bad. We've seen so many young teams with young quarterbacks, be really bad, and then, they figure it out and they grow together. And I just kind of view that right now with this New England team. Like we looked at, when you look at the stats for this Patriot team, on the offensive side of things, it's nothing stands out in a positive way, Derek. They're the worst passing offense in terms of yardage. They're the 31st in points scored and also 32nd in just total yardage as well. The only thing they do semi-well is run the football, but they haven't thrown a lot of touchdowns. Drake May's 10-7 in terms of touchdown to interception ratio. So it's not like he's turned the ball over a crazy amount, but also there haven't been a lot of big time plays from Drake May and in terms of touchdown plays. So I do feel like he's going to develop into a good young quarterback. He's certainly shown some flashes, but again, this is a bad New England team, a bad New England offense in general for sure. And there's a reason, Derek, that they're 3-9 right now. And the offense, our offense has been bad. Their offense has been just as bad, I think, in a lot of ways. So, and that's what happens when you have young quarterbacks and you're learning and you don't have a lot of, help around them. That's what happens. So, yeah, but in total, I do like Drake May as a quarterback. And I've always kind of liked him as a quarterback. And I think he'll be just fine. But as in terms of his first season, it's typical, I think, in a lot of ways of these young quarterbacks, typical rookie season in certain ways and what we've seen. But yeah, you have all these other quarterbacks that people are talking about, and Drake May kind of gets not talked about a lot, but I don't know. I think he's going to be just fine. I do.
Yeah, definitely. Drake May's definitely going to need to continue to get more help around him. We've been kind of saying the same thing about Anthony Richardson in a way. So both of these quarterbacks really needing more help from their teams in a bunch of different ways. And, when they finally do that, they'll be able to. Is there any weapon for the New England Patriots that kind of concerns you, Cody? I know that, I know the last time that we played them in New England, we had it was that 2022 game. Remember, it was the one where I think all three quarterbacks got to play in that one. Sam Ellinger started in that game, if I'm not mistaken.
That was really
and
bad.
The Colts got sacked at least 5 times in that game, if not more. It was a really long game, and it was the game that got Frank Reich fired. Is there any kind of weapon on New England side of things that makes you actually concerned, or are we really not concerned from a defensive standpoint?
Well, I don't think as a defense we have very much room to talk here and say we're not concerned, because has not been a great defense this year. And specifically, Derek, against the tight ends, and that's the one player, if there's any player in this New England offense I'm a little afraid of, it is Hunter Henry, because I'm going to be honest, Derek, I like the Colts linebackers. I like Zaire. I like EJ Speed. They suck in coverage. They are horrible in coverage. They both need to go to do something in the offseason to work on that, or the Colts, frankly, need to move on in certain ways. They need to get some actual linebackers that can cover tight ends, because, Derek, it feels like every time, if a team wants to attack this Colts defense, they always go for the middle where the linebackers are. They're always throwing to their tight ends. They're always throwing to their guys in the middle, because these linebackers are some of the worst coverage linebackers in the NFL. And I just think, Derek, when you look at it, it's just like Hunter Henry is, if there's a bright spot on this New England offense, Hunter Henry has been one of those bright spots this year. And it's not like the stats have been crazy for Hunter Henry either. He's had 51 catches for 500 yards, nothing too crazy. And he's only had 1 receiving touchdown this year. So it's not like he's been doing this crazy stuff. He's only averaging 44 yards per game. But, Derek, this is the type of game where I just think if New England's going to attack you at all, they're going to attack you in the middle, where you have been very weak especially this year, but the last couple of years with your linebacker play. So I think if there's any player, with this type of offense, it's hard to say there's a player that, keeps you up at night. There's not, that really legitimate, like the Detroit Lions had. But there still is some guys that do concern me, and I would say Hunter Henry is at the top of my list right now because of the fact that the Colts linebackers are pretty trash in coverage.
Yeah, the tight ends will always have you being a little bit concerned when it comes to playing against this Colts team.
Yep.
Let's do a. Do you have any final words, Cody, before we go into a score prediction?
Well, let's say I don't know the last time the Colts have won in Foxborough. It's definitely been a while. I don't know, Derek. It's honestly probably been. I know they've won at home. They won in Germany last year, but I don't know the last time the Colts have won in New England. I really don't.
I think they said it was 2006.
Yeah, I think you gotta go back to the Manning era. It's been that bad. So, Derek, I'm going to say this. Even though New England sucks, I'm still kind of concerned about the Colts winning this game. I don't necessarily have the most faith Colts are going to handle this one. I don't know. I know the Colts aren't as bad record-wise as New England, but I don't know, man. You haven't won in well over a couple decades at this point, and it's a little bit concerning for me.
Yeah, no doubt. This is going to be one of those games where you can finally get rid of some bad juju with New England, and this is the game to do it. Again, New England, fighting for that number 1 overall draft pick right now. So, the Colts haven't been good, but they've definitely been better than New England this year. So, definitely need to take advantage of that.
Oh, 100%. And they can definitely do it. I'm not saying they can't do it, but I don't know. Just with how it's gone, it's a little concerning for me that they could let this one slip away. And Derek, I got to think this is a game, like you said a couple years ago with Frank Reich. If the Colts weren't able to pull this game out, could this be putting a lot more of these, coaches and or what is the term? I wanted to say GM, but I know there's more to that. Just like the upper personnel, could it be putting some more pressure on those guys and making their seats a little bit warmer? Like if they lose this game, Jim Irsay can say whatever he wants and do whatever he wants. But Derek, if the Colts continue to lose in embarrassing fashion to teams they should beat, like they did in 2022, I mean, could this kind of push up and test Jim Irsay's patience a little bit more? So I think this is definitely a big game, Derek. And again, everybody expected Indy to lose last week. But if you lose to a team people are expecting you to win to, I mean, things could go south real quick, Derek. Real quick if that is the case. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It's an interesting game. New England stinks, but Colts haven't necessarily been lighting the world on fire either. So I don't know. And especially with the injuries, like we said, I think the Colts on paper are clearly the more talented team. But Derek, New England, as bad as they've been this year, Foxborough is a hard place to win, man. I don't care how bad this team is. Foxborough is a hard place to win. And that's kind of how I view it, I guess, when it comes to it. But again, there's a lot of positive things even after that loss that you look at and you say, hey, Indy still has some things they can build on. Your young quarterback's playing well and everything like that. But Derek, I mean, and there are a lot of these games coming up, you are going to be favored. I mean, I really think you're going to be favored unless the wheels completely fall off. You're probably going to be favored in a lot of these games. So if you start losing games that you're favored in, you already have a losing record. If you start losing to some of these teams, yeah, things could get ugly. Things get very ugly.
All right, give me a score prediction for this game. What you got?
All righty. So we said what was this total? 52?
42 was 40. And a half was the over under, and we said under.
Okay. So I'm going to say Indy scores. I think they're going to score more than they did against Detroit. But I'm going to say Indy wins 16-10.
All right. I was going to say, I said what I think what I said on the round table was 17-13.
Okay.
So
we think it'll be relatively close.
Yeah, I think it'll be low scoring as well because, like you said, neither one of these offenses are high powered right now.
No.
And especially for Indy having to deal with, what he has had to deal with. So
yeah, I don't know why I get the vibes. This is going to be a game where we're like this. The final score shows us a lot. Like it's closer than the final score indicate. Or it's not as close as the final score indicates. Excuse me. Where we're like, the Colts might have only won by 3 or 6, but they probably should have won by double digits. I just got that sense this game. Oh yeah,
100%. Well, that's going to do it for this one, guys. This was the early preview for the Colts versus the Patriots. Shout out again to BetUS for powering today's stream. And again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you all have a great holiday week and weekend. Be sure to have all the food that you can muster, but obviously be safe out there. Enjoy yourselves. And as always, guys, go Colts.